Hi folks! In this video I'm going to sew a zippered box pouch. Keep watching! This is the box pouch that I made yesterday. I shared the file in my Facebook groups. So we're going to make another one. They're really easy to make, and you can use fusible interfacing on these panels. So if you are using an Explore machine, you'd be able to cut them out anyway. So this is pretty handy. On this one, I didn't put any pull tabs or handles, but I wanted to show you what I'm going to do on this second one. So in the file, you have a 3x7" piece that you would press in half, and then, as usual, press the ends to the center and fold it in half again to make your final piece. I'm just going to cut that one in half. There we go. So if you were using this one, you would be folding it in half and adding it to the ends to make pull tabs on either end. You could do on either end or just one end, whichever you prefer. Another way you can do this, also I've added this to the file, so you may want to save it again if you've already saved it yesterday. This is a different way you can do the handle. We can add it on one side as a larger handle, or we can sew it this way into the gussets. So today I'm going to do this one. So we'll just set this aside. Again, this has been added to the file this morning, so you might want to resave the file if you've already saved it. So we'll put this aside. We don't need that anymore. So the first thing we're going to do is lay out lining fabric, good side up. I've cut this one 7.5 by 10, so that gives you a finished pouch that is 6 by 4 by 3 high. So if you want to make it larger, you can actually just cut larger squares to do this, or larger rectangles. You do want to make sure, though, that you have a zipper that's long enough to surpass the fabric. So we're going to line this up, pull side up on the right, line it up along the top of the fabric, and then we're going to lay our outside piece good side down along the top. I'm going to clip this in place to make sure it doesn't move while I'm sewing. There we go. I love these little wonder clips. They're terrific. I got mine on Amazon. I'm going to add my zipper foot to my machine, and I'm going to sew straight along this piece, and I'll be back to show you how it turns out. Okay, so you can see that I sewed straight along. I've then folded this over, put my 2 layers together, and press these flat. I haven't top stitched yet. So the next thing we're going to do for the other side is place our lining fabric good side up, take our 2 lining sides and lay them together with the zipper right along the edge, and line up your sides. Make sure that's lined up. And then we'll take our outside fabric and put it good side down on top. Line up your sides. Make sure everything's lined up at the top. And I'm going to clip it in place so it doesn't move while I'm sewing. There we go. And once again, I'm going to sew straight along with my zipper foot on my machine, and I'll be back to show you what we do next. And we're all set. I've installed the second side of the pouch, and I've pressed it flat so that each side has the lining and the outer fabric. I'm going to turn it over to the good side, and I'm just going to run a top stitch all the way along both sides of the zipper to give it a nice clean finish. And so my top stitching is done on both sides. You can see it there. So now I'm going to open it to the outside, but you know what? Before doing that, I'm going to open my zipper a good part of the way. I want to make sure that I don't continue on and forget to open my zipper and get stuck not being able to turn it right side out. I'm going to fold this over so that good sides are together. Make sure that my bottoms line up. If you're slightly off like this, don't worry about it. You're going to do a nice straight 1/4 inch seam along the bottom, and then we can trim off anything that doesn't match. We're not sewing up the sides yet because we need them open to do our gussets. We're going to sew straight along the bottom 1/4 inch, and I'll be back to show you what we do next. So I've sewn 1/4 inch right along the bottom, and then I did a zigzag stitch. I don't have a serger, so I finished my raw edges with a zigzag stitch to give it a nice clean inside. Before I did that, I trimmed to make sure everything was straight. So if you have this little edge or something that's not straight, don't worry about it. You can just trim it off as you go. Now we're going to prepare the sides. So you want to make sure that the center of your zipper is lined up with that bottom seam. I'm just going to clip it for a second and get everything lined up and clip it, and then I'll show you how we would do the handles. There we go, that looks lined up. Yes. On this side, because I have my zipper open, on this side, actually I'm going to open it a little more. I really don't want to get stuck. On this side, I'm going to put a pin in it to make sure it doesn't move. Get a longer pin. There we go, that wasn't coming through. And we'll put a pin in this one. Okay, that looks centered pretty well. And then I'll just put a clip here. And a clip here. So let's take this side off. It's a little easier to center up because the zipper is closed on this side. So if you were just putting a pull tab, you would have that 7-inch piece that you cut in half. You finish the edges just by top stitching. We're going to fold it in half to make a loop. You're going to put it inside with the loop facing in and the raw edge lining up with the raw edge. I hope you can see that. The loop will be facing in. Center it on your bottom seam, and the raw edge lining up with the raw edge on your project. We'll press that down, and we would clip it or pin it in place. Another way you could be doing this is if you have the 9-inch handle and you want to have a loop as a handle. So you're going to put it inside. Be sure not to twist it. line up one edge with the top and pin it or clip it, and line up the other end at the top, try to get them even, and pin it or clip it. I hope you can see that. It's a little hard to see. There we go. You would line up one edge, pin or clip, and then line up the other end, pin or clip, and then you would sew it right into the side of your project. So I'm going to be using this 9-inch handle, but I'm going to be putting it in the gusset seams. So that's a little different. I'll show you that as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to clip this back in place. There we go. Make sure your zipper is open. I'll clip this in place. And I'm going to sew straight along both sides, about 1/4 inch. Double over your zipper, your ends of your zipper, because you're going to be cutting off the excess, so you want to make sure that it's secure. Double over your zipper. And then we'll go on to doing our gussets. So I've done my seam along both ends, doubling over the zipper. Make sure that your zipper is open once again, or you won't be able to turn it right side out. So before I zigzag my edges, I'm just going to clean up this part on the edge. Make it nice and neat. And I'll do the same on the other side. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and zigzag along both ends to make them look nice and finished. And I'll be back. I've sewn up the ends, cleaned them up, and done a zigzag stitch along both ends to make the seams nice and clean when they're showing inside the bag. So now we're ready to move on to the gussets. I'm going to start on the side where my pull tab will be when the bag is closed, because that's where I want to put my handle. So I'm just going to open up my corner. I'm going to press it so it'll be easier to work with. Make sure your zipper is open all the way. That will also make it easier to handle. Make sure my seams are both facing in the same direction. We'll just finger press it nice and straight so it stays in place while we're measuring and cutting. Okay, I'm going to start on this side. Make sure it's nice and straight. We're going to cut in, line up your point. You can use a ruler if you prefer. Line up your point, and you want to go down approximately 1.5 inches. You can do 1 1/4 inches, 1 inch, whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to mark along there. I'm going to take my ruler and try to line it up with all this fabric in the way. And I'm going to cut that off. We'll discard that, we don't need it. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Make sure it's lined up nice and straight. I'm going to mark it again. About 1.5 inches. You can even do 1 1/4 inches if you prefer. There we go. And I'm going to cut that off. Okay. So our handle, I wanted to do it on the gusset so that it's a loop like this. So this will be inside the gusset. So we're going to put it on the inside. Make sure you don't twist it. Going to place it right here. Center it up. And I'll use a clip to keep it in place while I sew my gusset. And I will do the same on the other side. Make sure it's not twisted. Center it up. That looks good. And I'll put a clip here. So I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam on each of these sides so that my handle will be installed, and then I'll go ahead and do the gusset on the other side in the exact same way, except that I will not be installing a handle. And we're done. Our gussets are done on both ends. They've been zigzagged to keep them from fraying. I need to clean them up a little more. So I'm going to finish opening this zipper and we're going to turn it right side out. You'll be able to see the handle the way I installed it. I like this finish. Make sure to push all your corners out. All the way out. This end too. There we go. So now you can see how I've sewed the handle into the gusset. I think that's kind of cute. Let's go ahead and close it up so you can see how it looks. It needs to be pressed. Actually, this would be a good time to use my new Easy Press Mini because I can just drop it right inside and press it. You need to do some good pressing on it, but that's all there is to it. They're really easy to make and I think they're really cute. I like the handle done this way. I'm not sure if I would do it a little shorter. It's nice the way it is. So if you want to make these a little bigger, because once again, it's like 6 inches by 4 by 3. So if you want to do them a little larger, just use a larger rectangle. Just make sure that your zipper is long enough to overextend so that you can trim it up after. Probably want to add a little jewelry to this, a name tag or a tassel and something cute on it like I did on this one. So yes, just make your rectangles larger and make sure you have a long enough zipper that surpasses the rectangle so you can trim it up nice and clean after. And that's all there is to it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you're going to make some box pouches and use different handles so we can see how they look. Post pictures in the groups. Please like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thank you for watching.